Welcome back to Dom's Corner, everybody. I am your host, Dom Martino, and sitting to the bottom of me is Miss Sammy Ramirez. Sammy, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Real happy to be here. Excited to talk some Harry Potter today.
Yeah, me too. And to my left is Mr. Adam Leach. Adam, how you doing?
Pretty good. Happy to be here.
Right on, man. And yeah, excited to get into Harry Potter again. It's been a little while. But we're going to do it, and it should be a lot of fun. I want to thank everybody for being here today, and we're going to be talking specifically about Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, the fourth film in the franchise, directed by the one, the only Mike Newell. And just rewatch this today. I'll let you know my thoughts here in a minute. But hey, guys, if you haven't done so already, please hit the like button below, subscribe to the channel, leave some feedback in the comment section, and share this with your friends. And before Jareth comes in here and stabs me, hit that bell for notifications. Thank you very much. So yeah, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Let's talk very seriously about this film. So if Hagrid farted in the school, would they have to evacuate it?
Like where this is going.
This thought crossed my mind today. Like, would they have to evacuate the school if Hagrid, like, passed gas? Like, I feel like when Hagrid passes gas, it's like, it's an event. You know what I mean?
Well, that's a big man.
Yeah.
You would have to assume, based on his size, he's what? How many normal humans do you think could fit in Hagrid?
Yeah, I don't know. Probably like
four?
Two, three.
Four to
I'm gonna
five.
Go 2.5
4 to
three.
5.
So, if he wants to eat, I don't know, maybe 3.5.
So you could assume that his
4.5.
colon is at least 3 times the size of a normal human's colon. So therefore, you can assume his farts will also be larger.
Right.
It will take up more square footage.
Right.
The plume of his gas.
Right.
Will take up more square footage.
Yeah. See, my thoughts exactly.
Right.
Like, I mean, if I'm just saying, if you're close enough behind him, you're dead. Right. Like. These are kids we're talking about, too. Like, if you're a first-year student in Hogwarts and you're close enough behind them when the shit goes down, no pun intended, when the shit goes down,
I would intend that pun.
Still, you're dead. I'm just saying, if you're a first-year student and you're standing closely behind him. Anyway, let's move into the movie itself.
To be fair, he does live, like, a little bit off campus, if you will. In his own little
probably why he lives
the reason. Probably the
Not
reason.
saying, but just saying.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I'm pretty sure that his farts would probably occupy his entire shack. Like,
yeah,
right.
Who comes
peel
around?
the paint off the walls.
Who comes around and takes care of the plumbing? Is it Filch? Like who comes around to the hut and takes care
I
of the
like to
plumbing
think
in
it's
there?
Filch.
Yeah.
He would.
Can you imagine Hagrid holding a normal sized plunger?
Yeah. No, I can't. I can't. I mean,
Imagine
it would be like this
size
big
of
in his hand.
Right.
He'd be
be like trying to plunge a regular toilet with like a toothpick.
He would have to have a
not...
special toilet.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
He would have to have a special
toilet, which will require a special plunger, which Filch somehow has to use. That's probably why he's.
I never really thought about how he would require a very special setup, like all around. It's like.
Yeah.
He wouldn't fit in a normal bathroom stall.
Yeah.
No way.
He would not.
Oh yeah, no way. There's no way he uses like just the regular facilities at Hogwarts.
No.
Like,
you know,
every time he has to go all the way back to his house.
Oh yeah,
like, that's the only bathroom.
I'm picturing him now having to take a pee and then like going into the boys' bathroom and using the urinal like Uncle Buck. And
it's Uncle. I was literally about to say that. That was the next point I was gonna make.
Yes.
Tough times for
that
Hagrid.
Urinal's going like up the top of the urinal's like up to his knees.
Yeah.
Tough times for Hagrid and Hogwarts, I'll tell you. It's tough to be the giant groundskeeper.
We need a spin-off about that.
Yeah.
Oh my god, please.
Well, if they let him use magic, the shit would be gone like that. You know what I mean? Like, but they don't. That's the problem.
Good point.
Yeah.
Can you imagine a spin-off series that's literally just about Hagrid and the troubles of being a very large man in a small world?
That's the title. Hagrid and the troubles of being a very large man in a small world. That's the title right there. Very Harry Potter-like title. I think that's what we need on HBO Max.
Perfect.
Let's do it. All right.
Let's do it. HBO Max. Let's do it. We'll give you that idea for free because that's how bad we want to see that.
Yeah, you can have that. You don't even
can
have to
have
give us
that.
royalties.
Yeah,
Sure.
you can just have that one.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, if you want to give us royalties,
We're not
I
going
won't
to say no.
It'd be a
Exactly.
benefit. I mean, that's
But
for
we're also
sure.
like not going to sue you
Yeah,
necessarily.
yeah. We're all struggling, content creators here. We could use royalties for sure.
Yeah.
But talking about this film in particular,
Anyway, yeah, the movie.
the thing we all came to talk about, the Goblet of Fire.
that thing.
Is that where Hagrid poops? Is in the goblet? I don't know. Anyway, it's big enough for. Sorry.
I don't even want. I'm just imagining then, like, how the papers fly out. Can you imagine, like, if like
Oh God!
it's flying out?
There's shit flying everywhere.
Dumbledore goes up to the goblet and he's like,
That is
"Who crapped in the goblet?"
No, there's only one man big enough to shit in this goblet.
Either that or that other gal.
Or Madame Maxime. Yes.
That's a whole semester's worth of class right there, just to learn how to get shit, out of Hogwarts. Like,
Yeah, it's just a thing they all know. They've all had to do it before. They've all been behind Hagrid when he's had to go, so it's just a thing that they've learned.
expecto patito, just
It just
gets rid of all of it. Anyway, Goblet of Fire. This movie, I rewatched it today. I'm assuming y'all both did as well. Haven't seen this one in a little while. I was really curious to see how it compared to the third film in the franchise. That one, being my favorite so far of the ones we've talked about. And for me, I actually found myself having some problems with this movie. I didn't dislike it, but I found more problems with it than I think I had with, say, something like 3. But I didn't hate it. I think that, like, it's one of those movies that gets better as it goes. Like, the beginning of it definitely has some choppy areas, like, for sure, and it felt like it was being paced like way too quick. But that said, this is obviously the first book in the series that was like astronomically thick, compared to the first 3 books. So I gotta give Mike Newell credit on the fact that he was able to adapt it with me still understanding what was going on. I think once we get to like the Death Eaters invasion, at the Quidditch World Cup, like, I think it's where it starts to pace itself out really well. But there is a lot of really, if you take this movie on surface level, there's a lot of really strange ideas that I feel like Mike Newell was bringing to the world, and I don't feel like he understood it as well as, say, like Chris Columbus or Alfonso Cuarón. Doesn't mean his movies were better than Chris Columbus's films. It just means that there was a level of understanding I felt like he didn't really have for it. Like, there's definitely moments where it's like, that could have used maybe like a little extra charm or something there, like a little extra Harry Potter charm to it. But one of the things I really respect about it is, like, despite the fact that it still feels like he's taking source material and adapting it, despite the fact that he might not understand it as well as the prior 2 filmmakers. And he's just directing it the best way he can in a very Mike Newell way. It's extremely dark, and he keeps that dark tone throughout it, and I do respect that. I just found it to, at times, not to mesh as well with Harry Potter. I don't know if you guys know what I mean, but, just to wrap up my overall thoughts on it, I'm going to say, I think my ranking right now actually goes 3, 1, 4, 2. So, like, 3 being my favorite, 1 being my second favorite, 4 being my third favorite, 2 being my least favorite so far. So that's where I'm at with it. But Adam, I'll let you go ahead and talk about your overall thoughts.
I've always really liked this movie. I still really like it. I kind of said when we started this whole thing that I think that my rankings are probably going to go as I watch them, because I've always thought that they just kept getting better. There might be a couple that switch around here and there, but I still think I'm correct in that assumption. I still think I enjoyed this the most out of the ones we've watched so far.
Oh, wow, okay.
I've always really had a love for this movie. it really it's the tone is noticeably darker. I know the third one, the tone gets significantly darker than the previous two, and then the fourth, they crank it even more. Visually, this movie is noticeably darker. Just all around. The pacing in the beginning, I guess what I'll say, I don't have a problem with it. I guess I know what you mean. But to me, I don't see that as an issue, because to me it feels like they paced it that way on purpose because the movie feels kind of urgent.
It does.
Less it feels less choppy, like accidental, like they're trying to squeeze too much in, and it felt more on purpose, like we're trying to convey a message that there is an urgent story that is happening. You know, Voldemort is very close to getting into power. There's a whole lot of stuff we got to get into. So it felt very like they want you to know from the very start, like a lot of stuff is going to happen. It's getting serious. So that's how I always perceived this movie. There wasn't a really long build up or intro. It kind of just, they're like, all right, movie starts. Let's get down to brass tacks. And they start going right into it. Which is part of the reason why I like this movie, because they really hit you early on. Like, you know, like with the stuff that I know we'll get into it, but like the stuff that happens at the Quidditch Cup, like that happens very early in the movie. You see some dark stuff happening. And I like these later movies for that reason, that we start seeing a very intense storyline that hits much earlier in the story. I would say as a whole, this movie might not have as many of those magical moments that you described the first three having, like where they kind of outdo themselves with showing you how magical Hogwarts is and all these cool little things, and they expand the world. At this point, I feel like they've done so well at that it kind of goes without saying. Whereas in the first three, they were building the wizarding world, they were building the mystery of Hogwarts, and now where we are kind of waist deep in the story and in the intensity, and we kind of stop getting the shiny details and describing the wizarding world, and now we're just getting the story behind it. Not to say that there isn't magic about it, but I find, all in all, I find this movie to be much more intense than the previous ones, and I think they only get more intense from here. And I like that, and that's exactly why I tend to like them more as I watch through them. And my rankings will probably be pretty predictable, because at this point, this one probably is my favorite, and then the third one, and then 1 and 2 I can flip back and forth on. I can't really say it. If I didn't have certain issues with the second, it would be a clear-cut winner. But I would say right now 4, 3, 1, 2.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's funny, man, because, you know, I thought my rankings would be just as predictable, but if you'd have told me that we'd be 4 movies into this, like before we started, and Sorcerer's Stone would be my second favorite one, I would have called you insane. Like, it's so weird to me, like, how my opinion has changed on these. But, you know, one of the things I'll say about this movie in terms of, you know, the pacing issues, like some of the stuff, and I don't know if it had anything to do with, like, me watching that like full 8-hour documentary on the making of all these, but I think that is part of it, because one of the things that was said in there was, you know, about how like this screenplay originally ran into like a 4-hour movie. They were going to split this up into 2 parts initially. And I actually remember that as a kid, you know, see, like looking at I think it was like, it wasn't like IMDb, it was like movies.com, but they had it listed on there, like Goblet of Fire parts 1 and 2 initially. And I remember this, and I remember hearing
Did they say where they were going to cut it? Did they say where they were going to cut it?
No,
I can't think off the top of my head. I'm like, where do you cut it in half, though?
I would have, if I had to take a guess, it would be after the second Triwizard tournament, like this, not tournament, but the second task that they had. It's just
the Triwizard tournament works so well as a story.
It would be really hard to cut
single story.
It would. That would be my guess as to where they would have cut it, though. I don't know.
On one hand, I'm always game for more content. Like, I'm always game for a more drawn-out story so I can see more. But on the other hand, it would kind of suck to cut that in the middle of it, because it works so well
singularly.
Yeah, I don't know what the original screenplay looked like. All I know is it was originally 4 hours, and they were going to release it as that, and then they went to like they planned to put it out in 2 parts, and then they were like, no, let's just cut it down. And I feel like you can tell. I feel like you can tell when you watch this movie that stuff was definitely cut from the original screenplay, and it feels jumpy, especially in the beginning. And I think that that's what actually bothered me on this one this time around. But anyway, Sammy, what do you think of the film overall after rewatching it? Where are you at with it?
So yeah, I didn't love this as much as I did
Right.
Prisoner of Azkaban,
Mm-hmm.
or even really the first two. This one might be my lowest actually. I think right now
Whoa.
I go three. I think I go 3, 2, 1,
Wow.
4
Wow.
right now for
Wow.
me.
Wow.
I know. Not to say that I didn't love it though. It's just
Yeah.
I just love those. It's not that I love this any less. It's I love those ones just so much more
Yeah.
that I can't put this above. Like my favorite moments in this just don't beat out my favorite moments in the other three.
Yeah.
But I'm not to say that I've all growing up. This was one of my favorite movies. This is one of my
Yeah, me
favorite
too.
books. This was
Me
one of
too.
the best books to read because it's such a change of pace. Even the third one is a change of pace, but this one is even more. You have the world expands even so much more. You get 2 new schools. You get more Voldemort backstory. You get a whole tournament. You get all of these new characters and storylines that then overarch into Harry's whole story, and it's just absolutely fascinating, and I love all of it.
Mhm.
Watching it on this rewatch, I really kind of the big thing that stood out to me was I really understood how it kind of I feel like there's a real sense of like dread and doom kind of over this movie,
Yeah,
like
for
oh
sure.
like it's kind of hanging over. It's kind of the elephant in the room that something bad is like really happening, something life changing is going to happen, bad things are in the
Yeah.
process. And there's a lot of hints to that, but the movie is also kind of tonally gives you that
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah. One of the
Yeah.
interesting things too for me is like I said, this movie ranks third best for me so far as the ones we watched so far, but still, if you take the third and final act of the film, I think it's the best third and final act, just that alone, that of all
Right.
of them so far. Like that
I'll give you
alone
that.
is still
Yes.
the best third and final act of all the films. It's not that. Like that is not the problem. It's everything before that I feel like is a little bit problematic. But that said, I still love this movie. Like I had a good time watching it overall. It's not that I like had so many problems that it ruined it. It's just that I noticed more problems than a couple of the others that we've watched so far.
The tail end of this movie to me by itself is enough for me to rank it over all the other
It's fair.
ones
It's
because
fair.
I get that. I get that.
Yeah.
there are sometimes there are moments that happen in movies that are so good
Yeah.
that it almost doesn't matter what happened before. I'm
Yeah.
always going to want to rank it. And to me, the graveyard scene, the maze and the graveyard scene by itself is enough for me to rank it above
Fair
the
enough.
other ones
Fair enough.
that I've watched so far, because I
Yeah.
feel like the graveyard scene is the most intense thing that we've had in these movies so far. It's incredibly important for setting the tone, not only just continuing the tone, and it builds up
For
to
sure.
that. The whole movie is crescendoing to that point, but
Yeah.
it sets the tone for the rest of the series in a very real way, because
Yeah.
we didn't Prisoner of Azkaban has an intensity about it, but it's not like this, because we are dealing directly with Voldemort. We are dealing directly with Voldemort is not just coming back, he comes
He's
back.
here.
He
Yeah.
is back. In the last one, we're dealing with Sirius Black and Dementors, and it's like whatever. You know, even the first two feel a little more pressing in terms of Voldemort coming
Right.
back than the third one. But the fourth one is like the most pressing.
Mhm.
And it's that part of the story that I'm addicted to.
That's fair.
I'm addicted to
Yeah.
Voldemort is such a phenomenal character,
Yes.
and just so terribly cunning and wicked, and he's just this character that when he is on screen, I'm going to probably like that scene more than most of the scenes in the movie, because he just plays this weird diabolical character that has this charm. And it's I don't know, it's wild. I started thinking about it as I was watching it. I was like, I feel like it's very popular for a lot of series like this to have religious overtones or undertones and inspiration. So I kind of looked it up to see, like, I wonder where her mind was at. And it does seem that when she was writing this series, a lot of it was fairly parallel with religious things and Christianity and stuff like that. So I started thinking, like, I wonder if like Voldemort was supposed to be some sort of a weird parallelism with Satan or something, because that's how he feels to me. He feels like when he comes on screen, you almost feel this coldness. Like it's like,
and it's
kind of,
yeah, and it's the
it hurts.
and like they want similar things. They want, you know, their will to be the will of everybody, and if you disagree, then you can just have bad things happen to you. And they want that,
and he's cunning
immortality
too,
and the cunningness of it, yes, and the
that's
suaveness almost,
right.
coolness.
The whole MO, if you're familiar with the Bible or Christianity, the whole MO of Satan is like, that's kind of who he is. Like he's cunning, like, and but beyond that,
as well.
yeah, and beyond that, the fact that nobody wants to say his name, like in religion, you have a million names for people. Usually just call him the devil because you don't actually want to say the name Satan or Lucifer. Like those are like bad names. So there are a lot of things about that character that feel very similar to that to me, which kind of makes it even more intense, especially if you're somebody that did grow up with religion being a part of your life. Then watching it, I mean, even if you're not religious anymore, you kind of get that when you watch the screen and you're just kind of like, there's just something about this guy that really doesn't sit well with me. So when he's on the screen, you know, it's kind of addicting for him to be on the screen because he just gives you this weird, the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah, and the thing is, if we're talking, if we're talking books, I 1010% agree with you, Adam. I think the last half of, well, the last like third of the book, starting with the maze and then ending with everything going with Voldemort in the graveyard, and then ending. I think in the book, I think it's just done so much better, and it's because things needed to be cut. It's because it's long, and it's just, you have to get the important parts because we only have so much time. But I think if we're talking books, I go 3, 4, 1, 2. My ranking changes, but because I think like it's just absolutely incredible, and there's so much more into the maze and everything that. And the Triwizard Tournament is just in so much more detail. But so I totally get where you're coming from, because if we're talking books, I'm 1000% on your side.
I would like to reread the books to see like where they.
I wish it was 4 hours.
Yeah, me too.
I really I'd watch it.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
They just cut so much. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like we just saw what happened.
I wish Deathly Hallows was like 6 hours. I wish that could have been like an event.
I'd be cool with that.
They cut there's so much they cut.
I'm gonna beg Warner Brothers.
That's the only other one I'm mad about how much they cut.
I'm gonna beg Warner Brothers, after the success with the Snyder Cut, if there is a 4-hour cut of this film, release it.
Give us the Harry Potter Snyder cut.
Give me the cut.
Because this film is the one I think so far that really needs a longer cut. Needs a longer cut. It can really.
I wonder if that will set a trend of just mass releases of long cuts.
That's what I've been saying. I think it is going to.
Right.
I think it is going to. Yeah.
People are spending more time watching stuff now than ever because we have so many devices and streaming services. Yeah. I feel like if there was ever a time to make a 4-hour movie, it's right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
For sure. Yeah, let's go ahead and do the deep dive on this thing and get through that. So the opening for me is like, I think it's one of the weakest openings. Like, you guys can disagree with me in terms of the films. I think it has one of the weakest openings. Don't get me wrong, it's intriguing. I just found it to be on a very odd note. Like, it was like, we got this guy who's like, we don't care about it at all, you know? And like, I get that this was stuff in the book, and I just feel like, I get that this is like Harry's dream, right? This is the foreshadow to that, but I just feel like with so many other things in this movie, there are shots in here that are unnecessary. You know, I feel this way about this film. I would have rather replaced certain things with other things, you know what I mean, in the book, and this is I didn't feel like we needed to spend too much time with the caretaker. I felt like this was one of the weakest openings of the entire franchise. And then we jump in to, just Harry waking up. It's Harry and Ron in bed, and it's like, whoa, we're here, and it just feels like there is just so much, like we've just lost so much. Like, what are they doing here, And obviously, if you've read the book, you know exactly what they're doing there. But I'm saying, from a guy who just watched this movie today, it's just, I don't know what they're doing here. It's yeah, and it's so weird to me. And then we're just jumping right through. I feel like this beginning moves so fast, which is beneficial on one hand, but the other hand, it just feels like it's just so chopped up, And then it's because we move from that, then they're getting up, they're already outside, they're dressed, everything, they're walking through, the woods, and I just feel like we needed like a conversation somewhere, and just a conversation that was like felt fleshed out somewhere along the way, and we didn't really get that. We're just moving, and it's kind of like Adam said, the movie feels urgent, and so I get that too. But yeah, so we're walking through the woods. This is our introduction to old Cedric Diggory, the first Bobby Pattinson film, so we got that going for it. So
Bobby.
We're walking through Bob.
Good old Bob Pat.
Good old Bob.
So we're walking through Bobby Pats, and you get up to the I forgot what they called this in the book, the port key. It's in the movie too. And it's just like a big shoe, but I did like the design of it. As a book reader, I was appreciative that they got the design of the port key down, I think, to a T of the way I would have imagined it looking. I think a lot of the shots here are really pretty, by the way. Like Mike Newell definitely shot this movie very well in terms of the cinematography. I think it's some of the better cinematography we've had for sure. It's really good. So then we get to the Quidditch World Cup, and I like how they just arrive there. I don't really like it because it just feels spaced too quickly, but like they just arrive there and just like, hey, here we are, Quidditch World Cup. All right, pitch the tent. Here we go. I did like the idea of this like small tent, and then they walk in and it's like massive. Like obviously that's really cool to see on screen. So there's that, and then you got they're all talking, and I mean, you got that moment with Harry. Nice little moment, though. I love magic. I like that little touch that they threw in there. And then we get to the actual World Cup itself. We see Lucius Malfoy again, which we haven't seen since 2 films ago. So really cool to have him back. I like the character a lot. I like his presence in the films.
So he is really a twit.
He is a twit, that's for sure. But
showing up being a complete douche.
Love his presence
with
in there.
Glorious hair, though.
With
beautiful hair.
His hair.
For sure.
He should be on a Garnier Fructis commercial.
He should be. He deserves it. Jason Isaacs has had just numerous roles where his hair has just been like phenomenal. Whoever wigs that man just like deserves an Oscar if they don't have one already.
Definitely. And then the Quidditch World Cup itself, by the way, I think is like one of the best things to happen to this movie, because I felt like I still, even when watching it today, I feel like it's so immersive. Like I feel immersed in that World Cup scene. Like I think it's good in that sense. It's shot very well.
All 5 seconds of it.
But it lasts so short. That was going to be my gripe. That's exactly what I was going to say. It's so short, and you're like, as a book reader, you're like, You're like, they cut away right when the game started. It really did, and that kind of sucked. It would have been cool to see, because you do, when it starts up, you do feel immersed in it. You feel like you're there.
You're like, let's go.
It's really cool, and unfortunately, it lasts for, like you said, about 5 seconds, and then we're done.
And it was a good game. It was a good game.
Right. Right, I do remember that being epic as hell in the book, so
Victor Crumb caught the snitch,
right,
but Ireland still won.
And that's another one of my problems with the movie. It's like we get no pretext to like some of these great characters, that we get introduced to them later, but we don't get a lot of time with them, and they're really great book characters, but then they kind of waste them here. So I feel like the other thing, I mean, this is where it starts to get paced a little bit better here. They get back to camp, I did love the song, like when they're singing to Ron, like I thought that was hilarious. But we move from this like really funny scene to like this really serious shit like so quickly, and it's actually one of the transitions that works for me, like in terms of tone transition. Like that worked for me, because in reality, if like these Death Eaters were coming, like it probably would happen in a moment where you you were just having fun. So I really dug that. I felt like it made the movie a little bit more grounded. I really dug that, transition from the funny to the serious with the Death Eaters. So they come in, invade. Love this scene. Really, really dark. And then we get what's his ass after the fact, who the Death Eater. Can't think of his name.
Barty Crouch
Barty Crouch,
Jr.
thank you. Barty Crouch Jr. throwing his spell up into the sky. Oh my gosh, that imagery was so great. But we'll stop there. What did you guys think of all that? We'll start with Adam.
Yeah, so right off the bat, like I said before, this movie is very dimly lit from the start. It's noticeably darker in visuals. I mean, tone too, but yeah, I can see your pacing gripes. It's one of those things that I don't have an issue with it, because watching it the way it is, to me, I just feel like it has a sense of urgency, and I don't really care that much. But that being said, I would not complain if they wanted to draw it out more and give us more context. Right. I think the way they did, for my personal tastes, still makes sense. But I would probably like it even better if they had decided to draw it out and just give us some more cohesive moments, more time building up, more time at the World Cup, because the World Cup is a really cool thing. It would have been a lot cooler to see more of that match. One of the stupid moments that I always think is when they see the Malfoys and and he's like, "Father and I are in the minister's box." And I'm like, okay.
Even his father has to be like, Draco, like, don't
okay, Draco, like, when you see Victor Crumb for the first time, you can tell there's not a lot going on up here.
Yeah.
That's always the very first thing when I first saw this guy. As soon as I saw him, I was like, he looks like there's not a lot going on up there. And then later in the movie, you get confirmation when Hermione talks about there being sawdust in his head.
Oh, yeah.
And then when the Death Eaters come, I think that part's really cool, when stuff just catches on fire. And that's another thing is I think, because when stuff starts catching on fire and then Harry like gets knocked over, what the first thing that comes to mind is, like, when he wakes up is, boy, how lucky are you that you got knocked out and literally everything burned to the ground around you, and you woke up and not a hair on your head is harmed.
It's true.
Like, you'd probably have at least some first degree burns, because there are tents right next to him that would have been up in flames. Anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's really crazy, and you're right. I mean, Victor Crumb definitely doesn't have a lot going up on him there. Nice guy, though.
He just has that look, He just has that look, like there's just like the only thing going on his head is like very testosterone sort of thing.
It's like sports,
like meat,
girls,
beer,
meat,
I chop wood.
He's a nice guy, though. Sammy, what'd you think of all the beginning stuff? And
yeah, I mean, I say all of this while also have really enjoying it and really liking it, but I do feel that it is lacking in a little bit, and I do get that it's because of the urgency of it all, which I do like, and because there's like bigger things going on that we're getting to that's going on. But I mean, it's so short. I remember, like, because I saw the movie before I read the book for this one, and I remember like not really fully understanding that Victor Crumb was that the Quidditch player at the beginning was Victor Crumb, who showed up later. Like, I remember, because like we don't spend that much time there. Like, they say his name a couple of times, but kind of in conversation. It's not like made a big point really. And so I wish there was more of that, because they definitely kind of lacked in there. And I remember, like, in the spoiler for the book, this is just in the book that Ron has to call Harry at the Dursley's house over the summer to ask if he can come to the Quidditch World Cup with them, but Ron has never used a Muggle telephone before. So he's like screaming into the thing, but Mr. Dursley answers. So he's like, "Hello, this is Ronald. Isaac, can you hear me? And like it's hilarious, and I'm like, that it's perfect for this movie, and it's just
Right.
things like that make me sad that they cut that could have and just
I get it.
made filled in the gaps a lot better. But I
Would
do
have been
understand why they're not there.
hilarious. It would have been hilarious, but I feel like they probably just didn't put it in because it didn't fit the tone they were trying to
Sure.
set.
Right.
And why is my
I get
cat
that, I
on the
get that.
counter? Get off the counter.
That I don't get. Why is
Yeah.
she up there? I don't know.
So I
either.
Well, you must be crazy.
So I think from right here, we go to the Hogwarts Express. We're just moving right along. Anyway.
Run along.
So anyway, so we go into the Hogwarts Express, and I don't know what it was about the way that this Hogwarts Express scene was shot. It just felt incredibly dull compared to the first three movies, which might be a nitpick because it's not like it needs to look like incredible on the Hogwarts Express, because we've seen it before in the first three movies. Like, it's not like it needs to be like it was in the first movie where it's like we need to make this look amazing because it's new. But I just felt like every Hogwarts Express scene up until this point, they've added something cool to it, and this one just felt so dull. And I don't know. I just would have liked to have spent more time on it. But again, this one might be just more of a nitpick on my part. Which is fine, I guess. I don't know. But so after the Hogwarts Express, the one thing I'll say was cool. We got to see like Harry using the magical mail system finally, with Hedwig and all that, and that was cool. He sends Hedwig out on the train, and then they get over to Hogwarts, and we're seeing all the other schools showing up, which is pretty neat. Really like the shots here and everything. It's a really nice scene. Then we get into the Great Hall, and I remember seeing the Great Hall scene this time around, being like, we got here quick. Like, we got here really quick. But anyway, I digress about the pacing. So we're there, and one of the funniest scenes ever is Filch running down. Like, just I talk about. I was
gonna make a point to mention that.
Yeah.
Talk about sense of urgency. That was hysterical.
Talk about
Dude is high stepping it. His knees are to his chest, and he's holding his heart like he's about to collapse.
Like whispers in his ear.
You could gripe about it all day, but I just love that we never quite find out why. I don't think we ever quite find out why, and I still love that.
I think he was trying to tell him that the other schools were there.
Schools were ready.
Because right after that, the girls come in.
Probably, but they never really specify though, and I'm okay.
That's
with
what
the
I
fact
assumed
that,
that he was saying they're here, they're ready to enter. That's what I assumed. But
yeah.
Right.
I'm okay with them never specifying it. I find it to be that much funnier, the fact that it's just like...
I like to think he was just running to tell him that Hagrid clogged the toilet again.
Yeah.
Make sure no students go to the bathroom down here.
Bathroom on the third floor. Hagrid just took his fat shit.
To the monstrous dump.
The third floor toilet is out of bounds for anyone who does not wish to die a most painful death.
Almost painful death.
Just mythologically clogged.
Logically clogged.
It had to be somebody
Thing
clogging
of
the toilet. It had to
legend,
be Hagrid
that's how
clogging the
clogged
toilet.
it is.
That had to be it.
Oh.
All right, so they do address that in these movies. Great. So yeah, the what is it? The Bobatons Academy comes walking in. They got
Bobaton.
Yeah, I do like the stuff that Mike Newell put in here to really. I feel like every filmmaker's always kind of carried this out to show that they're getting older. These boys, they've gone through their puberty, so to speak. I mean, they're showing that, and they're into women now, and I like that. I like the touch that they put in there. Ron's watching them walk and all that, and so that's
the first time they're teenagers,
right? And it's pretty cool to see. I'm glad that they added that touch to it. And the other thing that I was going to add as well is the fact that when Victor Crumb, what are they called? Crumb's whole thing, his school.
Durmstrang.
Durmstrang. Thank you.
Durmstrang Academy.
Yeah, so when Durmstrang walks in, I remember thinking this was so damn cool as a kid. Now I just find it to be ridiculously cheesy. Like, I don't think it
they just like
plays
walk
really
in.
Well. Yeah, they do this like whole thing, but it's like it just feels very cheesy nowadays. I don't know why it didn't work in the movie as well for me.
I always thought that both of them coming in felt weird. Like,
weird, I know. Yeah.
Why did you organize choreography to come in? Like,
it is weird.
It seems like, because they wasted hours rehearsing all that.
Right. This is what I mean by like things that you could take out of the movie to add other moments. You know what I mean? And that's why this is why I feel like they did kind of screw up in some of the parts where they left stuff out from the book that could have fleshed it out more, because clearly things like this unnecessary, and it just feels so uncalled for. It's not like when we were watching Azkaban, and my thoughts on that clearly have changed drastically since the first time I saw that one. But one of the things I respected about it so much this time around is I felt like everything Alfonso did was necessary. Everything mattered, and he kept it in a really good runtime. You know what I mean? And he still was able to give like the necessary things that the story needed. This time around, not so much. Mike Newell really, I feel like, failed to deliver on some of that. So I get it. You want to be flashy and cool, but like it doesn't. That's not necessarily what makes the story flow. You know what I mean? In this amount of time. But again, they cut down the screenplay, so I don't know what to say about it other than that. But what were you saying, Sammy? I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, you're good. It really feels like that moment is really, instead of like describing to you that Beauxbatons is like a French kind of preppy school for girls, and Durmstrang is like the strong boy, like men of Durmstrang. Like, instead of like explaining that to you, they were like, what if they just do a dance in their entrance?
Are you sure?
And they'll figure it out.
Are you sure it's Beauxbatons?
Like, it feels like that's kind of it. Yeah, Beauxbatons.
Because
I'm 1,000% for sure.
They say Beauxbatons on this one. When
it's
Dumbledore
it's with an it ends with an X, so it's like Beauxbaton, Beauxbateau,
Beauxbaton.
It definitely ends with an X.
Beauxbaton Academy in this movie. I swear to God, he does.
I can't spell the word, but it definitely ends with an X. Okay. So it's because it's French. It's like
that's fine.
Yeah.
Well then, Michael Gambon didn't know how to pronounce it. Then that's fine.
Maybe they could have said Beauxbatons.
Yeah, I swear he did. Yeah. But anyway, so after that, we move into we get into what are we doing here? I can't remember. They go to the dorms, right? And then this is where we see oh God, I'm so bad with these. There's so many characters that we didn't get a lot of time with, so it's hard to remember their names, but I can't remember.
I know all their names. Who are you thinking of?
Whoever's sneaking into the Great Hall, the old guy.
Oh, Mad-Eye Moody?
No. But I did miss him, so let me talk about Mad-Eye
Barty Crouch. We got Barty Crouch Senior.
Senior, yes, I'm sorry.
That?
Yes, I'm sorry. But let's talk about Mad-Eye, because I missed him too. But Mad-Eye comes walking in. I liked his entrance. I think Brendan Gleeson did a phenomenal job with this. I think that he was perfect for what the role was. So yeah, I completely loved Mad-Eye. And then obviously they explain the Goblet of Fire after that, and like what that's gonna be for, and the Triwizard Tournament, and why the other schools are there. Kind of missed that, but anyway. So moving ahead of that, that's when Barty Crouch Senior. That's right. Barty Crouch Senior goes in.
Yeah, he explains. He gives the you have to be 17.
No. But before that, no. I'm not talking about Barty Crouch Senior. What the hell am I talking about? I'm trying to think of the other guy with the long hair.
What are you talking about?
The long hair, the one that goes into the Great Hall. He sneaks his way in there in the middle of the night. It's not Barty Crouch Senior.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Victor Crumb again. What's his whole school again?
Durmstrang.
The guy who brings in the Durmstrang people. The headmaster of Durmstrang.
The headmaster is Igor Gogorov.
Igor Gogorov. Thank you. Igor goes sneaking into the Great Hall in the middle of the night. I don't think that they ever follow up on this. This is my problem.
Teeth.
He really does.
Yeah. Do you know, Sammy? Do you remember what the hell was he doing in the Great Hall in the middle of the night? Did he put Victor's name in there?
Maybe, I don't know. He was a Death Eater, so there is that.
Right,
He
but
was loyal to Voldemort.
they
at
show
one
the scene
point.
of him going into the Great Hall in the middle of the night, and they never follow up on it. It was like it was almost as if it was
I know
put
what you're
there
talking about,
to make
right?
us think that he put Harry's
Maybe,
name in
maybe,
there. But like, what was he
right.
doing? They never showed us. They never told us what he was
I
doing.
remember now what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he must have put Victor's name in there. I don't know, but it's still weird that they put that little
But they
scene in
show
the movie.
Victor putting his name. He puts his name in there because
Oh,
there's
yeah.
a moment where like everyone comes in. And
Well,
they're
then what
like,
the hell was he doing in there? They never followed
I don't
up
know.
on
I
it.
know
He
what
was
you're
pooping
talking
in the
about,
cup.
and I don't know, and that's weird. He saw Hagrid coming, and he was like, "I can't," and he just went into that. That was the
He was
closest
going to
room.
plunge the cup.
Going to plunge the cup.
Oh, I'm so glad I started off the show that way.
What made you think of that? I don't even really want to know. I just was like, all right.
I'm a male. I have a weird mind.
You're
I
right.
don't know.
You make a valid
We
point.
like talking about poop.
You make a
It's
valid
true.
point.
It's true.
Yeah.
I don't know. Honestly, I said, like, let's talk seriously about Harry Potter, and then I just tried to think of the thing that was, like, the least serious about Harry Potter, so I don't know. That was where my mind went. Anyway. But my point is, they have this stupid-ass scene where he's sneaking in the middle of the night, never gets followed up on again, so that's weird to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, did he put Harry's name in the cup? Who put Harry's name in the cup? Did we ever find out?
Well,
Mad Eye, Barty Crouch Jr.
Barty Crouch Jr.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So never mind. Then I don't know what he was doing in there. Anyway, sorry about that. Got way sidetracked there, but
I know what scene you're talking about though, and I don't
they
even.
never
I don't
followed
remember.
up on it in this movie. Don't have it in the movie
That's
if you're
so
not going to
weird.
follow up on it. But
Mike
anyway.
Knoll, you have questions.
Yeah. So then we get to the scene where they're I think the next scene is the dark arts class, right? We move right into that, and then this is where with fake Mad Eye Moody.
Yes.
And so
The curses.
yes, the curses, and this scene is really cool. This is such a cool scene. Everything about it I love. I love Brendan Gleeson's performance as Mad Eye. I find it to be both the perfect balance of dark and funny. You know, like I think it is the perfect balance of it, and he does it very well. You know, I love the torturing of Neville. You know, all that kind of stuff. That is like, that stuff's really cool, and it starts to give, like, this movie. Another thing that I like about it is, like, Neville started to become a character finally. You know, like, he wasn't just there to be goofy. Like, they gave him some character. You know, even though, you know, he was still getting on, you know, people's nerves and stuff, they gave him something that we could latch on to with him, and I was really happy about that. We finally got that, because I really like Neville as a character in the book, so was really happy to see that here. But yeah, so we get through that class.
Neville in the book is just like, I love Neville in the movies, but it's just Neville in the book is just,
oh yeah, for sure,
I think, miles above.
yeah, I agree. But God, who's the kid who plays him? Does a good job as Neville. Like, he was perfectly casted for it.
Absolutely.
The other thing I was going to say is the execution of when he's like, the killing curse, only one person in this room has been known to survive it. And it's good for, like, the movie going audience that hasn't read the books, because it's like nobody really knew the name of the curse before, and obviously it's like, it's a very, like, important thing to know going forward. So now we kind of see what the curse looks like. We have, like, something to associate it with, you know, like a name to associate it with, and then you get the Avada Kedavra, you know, and all that. And so, like, very important moving forward. So I just thought, I think that it's great that they introduced that here. And then also, you know, then we get to the Goblet of Fire stuff where they're in the Great Hall and they're putting in the names that, you know, we see Victor put his name in there. I like, you know, Harry and Ron's little conversation that they have together. You know, they feel like, I tell you, like, the camaraderie between the actors gets better each year, with each continuous movie. They grow as actors with each movie, and like, they're definitely, they're good actors in this. By the time you get to this, they are really good actors, and you know, so I really like the conversational stuff there. When Hermione completely shuts down Fred and George, I thought that was great as well. That little thing, you know, it's not going to work. I thought that was really great. So, then you get the old man scene, which is like the one time I felt like, okay, that's like really good. Like that's like Harry Potter flair that I was looking for. So I really like that whole thing that went down when they tried to put their names in. That was really funny. And then we move into, the when they pull the names from the cup. And then it turns out that Harry's name is in the cup. Well, we get Victor, Cedric, who we met in the beginning, Fleur, and Harry. I think that's it, right? I'm not missing one, am I? Because there was supposed to be 3, and then we got 4, which is Harry. And then something very crazy to me is when Harry's in the dungeon, and then Dumbledore just comes running after him like a madman. But I love that Michael Gambon did it, at his age, and it played really well. So, and he was pretty angry, and then Harry's trying to explain to him that no, he did not put his name in the cup. And then we have some tension with Ron being jealous. Really like this stuff. I think that the tension feels real, between the two characters when Ron's upset with him, and both actors played it very well in the dorm. But anyway, Adam, what'd you think of all this stuff?
Let's see. Go back to the banquet hall. We already talked about Filch high stepping.
Yeah.
I can't get enough of that. I almost want to make a gif out of it. Just play it over and over and over because his knees are like this high.
Yeah. Anyway, I started with the dark arts class, if that helps you out.
Oh yeah. Oh, I was gonna mention when Hagrid stabs the dude with his fork.
Oh, that was funny. Thank you. That was
it
funny.
Goes so deep into his hands.
See, okay,
it goes this deep.
Yeah.
See, right there, hold on, because I was trying to make that point in Azkaban, and none of you knew what I was talking about. That's Professor Flitwick, the one he stabs with the fork. Why does he look so different? Why does he look younger? It's the same actor and everything, but I don't know why they just decided to make him look younger all of a sudden.
Right.
Because he looked so old in the first one. Anyway, sorry, go ahead, Adam.
Mad-Eye Moody, man, what a good character.
Yeah.
Just like the way he's played in this movie, he's very intense, kind of scary at times, but hilarious at the same time. He just rides this weird line. That class is, the class is kind of wild. It's kind of dark. I kind of feel bad for Neville. Clearly he's not enjoying what's happening. And I hate spiders, by the way. Me
too.
I hate them.
I hate spiders.
I hate them.
Even I had a sense of remorse when I was watching the spider get tortured. That even bothers me because I do have a love for living creatures. So to see anything be tortured, I remember watching that for the first time. Okay, I want to punch this guy in the face because that's it's just not cool.
Yeah.
But and then when they're walking down the stairs after class and Neville is by the window and he's really depressed. He's clearly something's wrong. And Mad-Eye comes running down the stairs and asks him if he's okay, and then tells him to come up and have tea with him. And then we don't really get a follow up. Right. What do they talk about? Why do you ask him to have tea with him? It just made me curious. Why?
It was to give him. He gave him a book that had gillyweed. That had the gillyweed information about it. Yeah.
I haven't read that book since really it came out.
You're good.
But let's see what came next.
And then they're all putting their names in the goblet.
Yep.
Well, before that, I was gonna say a line that Ron says that I think describes Mad-Eye perfectly that I liked when they come out of class. And he's like, brilliant, isn't he? Completely demented, of course. I'm terrified of being in the same room with him.
It's true, though. It's true.
It's very true. It's a perfect description of him.
Yeah.
Something that I just every time I watch it, I don't understand, maybe because I can't relate, but when Harry's name comes out of that cup, he doesn't say a word. He does not say a single word. He walks through all these people. Everybody is giving him the eye. All the teachers are giving him the eye. This kid does not say a single word. He just takes it. I'm like, literally 112% of people, of human beings, would say, I did not put my name in there. I did not, like, don't look at me crazy. That was not me. Like, any normal person would say that. But it's like, so that has always felt really bizarre to me, that especially a kid, any normal kid would be like, no, like, I didn't put my name in there. But I do like what you said. Dumbledore come running and he's like really intense, asking him if he put his name in there.
Yeah, I liked it.
Like that little intensity from Dumbledore.
Oh yeah.
But anyway,
the Sammy. So what do you think of the Ron and Harry stuff? The tension between them when Ron is pissed off. I mean, what do you got there?
Oh my gosh, that's some of my favorite stuff in this movie. I think it's totally it feels completely validated and it makes sense. And because we've also spent 3 movies watching them become friends, to see a rift in that, it's just like it feels like there's a rift in a personal friendship of ours, and it's just, I think it's wonderfully acted as well.
Yeah.
And I'll also say on Adam's last point, that I've also always found that scene so fascinating, that he just kind of takes it and just goes along with it. Because I remember the first time I saw that scene, my heart stopped.
Yeah.
I was like because you're like, Harry didn't, he didn't put his name in there. So you're like, what's going on? You're like, something bad's going on, and you feel like you are Harry, but you also are like, you're feeling out everything in that scene. And so I've always found that's one of my favorite.
It plays really well.
Moments of Harry.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things that Harry has ever done.
Yeah, I mean, it plays really well. I just don't think he really knew what to do. You know what I mean? Like, I that's kind of what it felt like. It's just he didn't really know what to do. He was just like, well.
And he's not the kind of person to make a scene in front of the entire school like that.
He's like, everybody else just took it and went up there. I'm not going to be the asshole who doesn't. It's just like, I'm going to accept it now. We'll figure this out later, kind of thing. I think that's where he was at with it. But
I think that's part of why. Yeah, I think that's part of the reason why Ron gets so upset. I mean, there's also the fact that Harry seems to go along with it at the beginning, and Ron doesn't have a chance to talk to Harry about it, because he just accepts it and goes along.
Right.
I think Ron and Harry's little beef is it's really frustrating for me to watch, because it doesn't feel, it has never felt warranted to me. Because to me, all my best friends that I've ever had, I always trust. And if they would have told me, especially knowing what they had been through, realistically, all the stuff they'd been through, all the stuff that they've trusted Harry with, all the stuff he's trusted them with, realistically, he should know, if he put his name in that cup, Harry would have told him. And if he's telling you, later, not right here, but later when he tells him, I don't know what you're talking about, I did not do that, I feel like if you're really close friends, you're not going to give your friend crap for that. You're going to believe them. If my friend said that, especially with that kind of intensity, I'm going to be like, okay, then what's going on? Let's figure out what's going on. So that, even though the tension does feel real, I mean, I guess it's definitely some 14-year-old drama.
Yeah.
But because it feels very melodramatic, very oh, for heaven's sake, Ron, quit being a little punk.
Right.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. No, I do. I get where you're coming from, 100%. But I do think it's a part of which isn't necessarily to say that I like this storyline, but it starts the whole idea that it does get carried out, especially in Deathly Hallows Part 1, of the idea that Ron has an inferiority complex when it comes to Harry.
He's a jealous type.
Yeah, he feels like he's only the best friend to the chosen one. He's only his second. It's Harry and friends. So it starts really solidifying that.
Right.
Ron,
it's frustrating.
Feels that way deep down.
It's frustrating because that Harry doesn't think that way.
Right. Exactly.
That Harry is a humble person, is extremely humble.
The world of Ron. Yeah.
Right. He's more humble than Ron is. He's of course one of the most powerful people in these movies, but he's probably one of the most humble people in all these movies. So it's frustrating to know how jealous Ron gets at times of him, knowing that Harry does not think that way whatsoever. It's all in Ron's head.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the two actors handled it so well, and I just think that it plays really well. And like, again, they've been together for 4 years. It's like most friends after about 4 years, they get into one of these really stupid fights that you're just like, why did we even fight about that? You know? But yeah, anyway, so you know, so then we get Harry walking around the grounds. I mean, people are just really mad at him. They don't really, you know, they're not rooting for him. You know, now he's a competitor, you know, so they have these pins, these badges and things that say like Potter stinks and all that. And then we get this, you know, little scene of, you know, another scene of, you know, Ron and Harry, you know, just still being upset with each other. The Harry, you know, hey, stay away from me. Again, the two actors just did so well with it. And then the Malfoy thing was really, really cool. I really like this scene. I mean, it's a good scene. And but well, before that, we got to talk about the fact that I think right here Harry approaches Cedric. I think I can't remember why. What's he telling him?
I don't know quite yet. Because he...
Is it later? Because he warns about the dragons.
Because he approaches him about the dragons, yeah. And
I swear it was right around here.
He has to see the dragons first.
Oh, you know what? I'm skipping way ahead because this is when Mad Eye comes in and turns Malfoy into the ferret, then takes Harry up.
Right.
I'm skipping way ahead. Let's talk about what happened first when Harry was sitting there with Neville, and then Hermione came out, and then, you know, said, Ron told me to tell you, Dean told Brevard. Hagrid's looking for you, which ends up being a really funny thing later on. And then Ron just looks so pissed off at him. I don't know why Ron carried this out as long as he did, but whatever. It's so,
I'm not an owl.
Right, I'm not an owl. And then he goes and sees Hagrid. I like Hagrid's little love interest thing. I think that's really funny.
Yeah.
I love the line where Harry's like, Hagrid, you combed your hair, and he's like, yeah, as a matter of fact, I did. Might want to try doing the same thing yourself every once in a while. And anyway, so then he shows them the dragons, and I really like that Harry like pulls off the cloak, you know, and goes dragons, because Hagrid wanted him under the cloak, obviously, and Hagrid just gives Harry like a little eye roll. I think it's the first time I've ever seen Hagrid get slightly irritated with Harry, you know what I mean, because he's just like, damn it, Harry, I told you to stay under the cloak, you know. But yeah, you know, there's kind of something adorable about Hagrid and his love interest. I'm good with it. I
tell you what, pal, if those two got married, their house would have to have some wicked strong plumbing.
You're so right.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Imagine the size of those pipes.
I pity the plumber. Oh my God.
Can you imagine a normal sized plumber unclog?
Oh man.
Oh yeah.
Magic is necessary.
So,
Roto-Rooter of the wizarding world. Yeah.
So then, after this, if I'm not mistaken, then we get Harry on the grounds. He's walking through. The Potter stinks stuff is going on. And then, so then so then he sees Malfoy, he confronts him, you know, Malfoy talks about, well, first he sees Cedric, and then he tells Cedric about the dragons, you know, and Cedric's, you know, pretty grateful about the fact that, you know, I feel like this shows like Cedric's a little two-faced, right? Because he's sitting there laughing with his buddies about the Potter stinks thing, you know what I mean? And then he's like, oh, Harry, about the badges, I've asked him not to wear them. And it's like, yeah, okay. Harry's just like, yeah, don't worry about it. You know? Right. I know that's not the truth, pretty much. And he's just like, you know.
But it's that very teenager thing of being like, hey, man, I told him to stop, and I'm really sorry about that. But that when your friends are joking about it, you like can't bring yourself to be like, stop.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's like
he's awkwardly laugh along.
He's young, but Harry likes the dude evidently, so he's like, I'm gonna have the courtesy to warn him about the dragons. You know what I mean? But yeah, anyway, I really like that interaction. But then he moves over to. That's when he confronts Malfoy. Malfoy tells him about the bet, and then, you know, Mad Eye comes over and turns Malfoy into a ferret. I really like the scene. McGonagall comes down. Is that the student? He goes, well, technically it's a ferret. I love Brendan Gleeson in this movie. He's so great. And then
we get a little less Malfoy in this movie, and I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, you do. I will say that is beneficial. I will say that is beneficial.
Can't stand that bratty little kid.
Yeah.
Anyway, so when he's
not in it a lot, honestly. This might be the least. that he's in any
I think
movie.
so.
I'm trying to think.
It's a blessing.
It might be.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
But anyway, the thing that I was gonna mention was I can't remember, something to do with oh crap, why am I blanking? Oh right, Mad-Eye takes him up to his office, and then you know, after that he tells him about like all his competitors. You know, he's like, what do you have that they don't, you know? And then Harry's like, you know, I'm a fair flyer. And then we move into the competition. By the way, the guy who looks like Hitler, Barty Crouch Sr., I love this guy because when he's going through and taking the dragons out of the bag and he goes, the Chinese fireballs, ooh. One of my favorite lines in this whole movie.
Yeah.
I love him. Anyway, so very strange fellow, that's for sure. But yeah, so then we get this epic dragon scene. Oh yeah, we completely missed Rita Skeeter, by the way, with the interviews and all that, which was another thing. She's causing trouble here too, behind the scenes. I really like the scene where Victor Crumb kind of walks up to her and he's like, "This tent is not for you know, it's for friends and things like that." Like I really like that. And then I like Dumbledore coming in and he's looking around the tent and he's like, "What are you doing here, Miss Granger?" I thought that was really funny. Well, let's get to the tournament itself. Great stuff. Oh my gosh. Like when Harry has to, you know, go up against the dragon. I love how you just feel how scared he is, you know, when he's hearing the other competitors go. I also like that Professor Filch, you know, can't work the cannon right in any of these. Like, that's another thing that really makes me laugh every time.
The running gag.
The running gag.
It's the greatest.
Filch
is just like silently the best character in the whole series.
He's the best character, but we never realize it because it's just these quiet one-off moments.
It's the strangest.
He really is one of those characters that I never realized how much I liked him until this last time I'm watching him through, and I realized he's hilarious.
He's the unsung hero,
and he's very consistent too.
It's the same. Yeah. It's the strangest thing because like every director has this like they're so diverse, you know, from one another. But the one thing that they all seem to agree on, is, you know, how to handle is Mr. Filch for some reason. They all want to handle him exactly the same.
Like they all had a meeting to discuss Filch's character. It's the only character that they discussed beforehand.
Right.
Oh, it's funny though.
He's that plot twist. Filch is behind the whole thing. He is actually behind Voldemort.
Voldemort works for Filch. Actually,
he does. Nobody suspects it.
That would have been crazy. Wild.
It would have been crazy. Missed opportunity.
Spin-off series, HBO.
HBO. You can have that one too. You can have that one.
Yeah.
We just want to see it.
Where were we? So this whole thing is epic, and then I like the thing in the common room afterward, with the egg, and you know Harry's like pumping up his fans. You know, he's like, "Want me to open it?" Like, I actually love the way that he plays it though. It's really cool. You do feel it in the moment, and it just works so well. And then Ron comes in and tries to do the, you know. No. I did try to warn you about this, remember? By the way, one of the weird things about this, though, like that, or one of the strange choices is during the actual tournament when Harry's trying to escape the dragon and everything. And trust me, like I said, that whole thing is like epic as hell. Like, I love it. I love the way it was done. I think like once I see the Triwizard tournament stuff, I'm like, okay, this is why you picked Mike Newell to do this movie, because it's like his sensibilities just work so well for that stuff. But Ron is like cheering on Harry, and I've always found this to be a strange choice. Not that he would ever want Harry to die, but I find it strange from the filmmaker perspective to want to like focus in on Ron cheering for Harry so many times, because as the audience member, you're still supposed to think that Ron is upset with Harry. So it was strange to me to like have this like in there before the reveal. But I guess you can just really go one way or the other with it. So might be a nitpick on my part, but I just always found that choice to be very strange. Anyway, so back to the common room or the dorm where Harry was opening up the egg. So Ron comes in. I just think the scene's funny when he tells him about, yeah, I tried to warn you and all that, and then we move into I believe it's like wintertime already, and then Harry's walking up the steps, he's getting the mail, and then no, that would not be yet, because
dancing lessons, right?
Right. So we got to get into dancing.
Next.
So then we talk about because we're at the Great Hall, and then that is when
With McGonagall.
McGonagall, right. Well, the letter comes, the robes come in, remember? And then we get McGonagall. The robes come in for Ron, which is really funny about the dress robes. And then we get to McGonagall, and they're talking about the dancing thing, and yeah, I love all this stuff, like the Yule Ball stuff. I think it's funny that Harry and Ron are like so nervous about talking to women, trying to get dates and all that. That's when we transition into wintertime, and then we get, because he asks Cho out and all that. Yeah,
we haven't even talked about Cho Chang.
Cho Chang, his love interest, because it was on the Hogwarts Express when we first saw her, and then now we're just seeing her again. Like we got like they kind of look at each other at different times throughout the movie, but there's really nothing that like clearly states like these two are in love. So yeah, so then we get around to that stuff, yeah, so he asks her to dance, she says no. But yeah, I don't know, Adam. Triwizard Tournament, Yule Ball, Ron and Harry being nervous about talking to women. What are some of the highlights in this stuff for you?
Let's see. The tournament itself is obviously really dope. Boy, that dragon really did a number on the shingles on the roof of Hogwarts.
He sure did.
And you know who's probably going to have to fix that?
Filch. He's got to get up on the roof.
Filch is probably up there like, oh, you son of a... He's probably like so super mad about that too. He's going to be up there putting up one shingle at a time by himself. And this giant, like 1,000-foot dragon just destroyed half the school.
I want to see like the Harry Potter movies, but from Filch's perspective. Like I want to see everything he was doing off camera. You know what I mean? Like
it would be so mundane, but it would be worth the watch. Like it'd be worth every second.
I would love that. Oh my god,
it'd be the greatest. So yeah, I think the actual tournament is really cool. Obviously, you know what? Everybody sucks, because before that tournament, everyone was either making fun of Harry or they were like really skeptical, and then he wins and everybody's like, oh, let's hoist him up, like, oh yeah, he's a jolly good fellow. Like it's like no, you don't get to do that. If I were Harry, I wouldn't be like riling everybody up. Like I would be like, no, all of you suck. All of you.
Yeah.
It is interesting that Harry is enjoying his time in the sun too. Oh, yeah. Like you want me to open it? Like, because he's not that type of person. So I always thought that was an interesting thing for him to do, because he never seemed like the type of person that was into that.
Right.
He's always kind of reserved, very humble sort of person.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, I really like that section. And just to go all the way back once again, the ferret scene is one of my favorite scenes in this movie.
Yeah,
it really is. Yeah. I think it's hilarious. I just had to touch on that one more time.
Yeah.
So then what we end up getting is we get the ball itself. I mean, we're moving into that. I mean, finally, Harry finds some dates. I like Ron coming in when he was like, he got turned down basically by Fleur, I believe, right? Or one of her people. I think it was Fleur herself.
By Fleur.
Right. So he asked Fleur out, which is really funny because she ends up marrying his brother later on down the line. But
that's true.
Yeah. So he asked out Fleur Delacour, and she turned him down. I love I like it when they walk. Yeah, that was a really good line. That was a really good line. So then they. Then Harry, like, I like the two girls because they've been doing it the whole movie almost. Hi, Harry. And then he's just like, it like hits him like a light turns on, right? He's like, hey, goes, asks him out. We clearly know what he's going to do. So then we get, they dress up in the rose. Looks like my great aunt Tessie. Smells like my great aunt
Smells
Tessie.
like my great aunt
Great
Tessie.
lines. Then we get into the ball itself. I love the setting of this. First of all, I love the scene. Obviously, it's a big moment for her when Hermione walks down the stairs. In the dress. It's a huge moment because, she's the way it's described in the book is like she just looked more beautiful than she ever had. Because Hermione's like ugly
so
in the
much
books.
better in the
like
She
book.
looking like Beauty and the
Yeah.
Beast moment.
True.
Yeah. It's just in the book, it's like she never wears makeup. Her hair is always
Right.
so frizzy. She has like these buck teeth. She's
Right.
like so weird and always by herself. And so it's this like whoa moment when she walks out in like a beautiful dress. And I mean, like J.K. Rowling herself has said this, that she does feel like that moment does feel a little bit like, oh wow, it's a beautiful girl in a beautiful dress. It's a girl I've always thought is beautiful in a beautiful dress.
Right.
Versus in the book, it's meant to be so much more.
Right.
Yeah. And it's the first, and it's because but I do love that moment because Hermione's doing it because she wants to do it.
Mm-hmm.
She wants to, look that way for the ball.
Right.
And I love that. It's just,
Yeah,
when Emma Watson is that beautiful, it's
sure,
so hard.
But I still think it does. It plays really well in the movie, and I just think it's that there's something very adorable about her excitement to go to her first dance and dance with her first boy, and you just feel that because you've been there as a teenager. You've been to your first dance. You've dressed up nice. So you just the feeling of them right now, and I like that it felt like a lot cooler, obviously, but they did kind of keep it like they had this rock and roll music and just the teenagers having fun, and there's jealousy in the air, and it's it feels like a school dance you would have went to in some ways. You know what I mean?
Do you want to know do you want to know a fun fact about that rock music real quick?
Sure.
So do you know about this? So there's a thing back in the day in the height of the Harry Potter fandom that was called Wizard Rock, and they were full rock bands that were dedicated to making songs entirely about Harry Potter and would have albums full of songs that were just about Harry Potter.
I didn't know this.
And it was incredible. I can give you recommendations later, but that was huge during this time. So that they've said that was their attempt to make their own wizard rock band.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But it's been with fans are then why didn't you just hire one of the wizard rock bands that were popular?
Yeah.
And have them do that, but
the songs are jams. I'm not gonna lie.
It was them trying to be we see you doing that. Yeah. That was huge back. Oh my god, that was huge back in the day.
I don't know. I like the songs actually. I think that they're bangers. They're good songs.
Yeah.
They were well written. I love the slow song too, mostly because Filch was dancing with this cat in the middle.
That's true.
This guy is so interesting. I'm telling you.
Oh my god.
But yeah, there's jealousy.
He's so happy with his cat too. He's just at the ball with Mrs. Norris, having a ball.
Yeah. I like that, the Ron and Hermione, tension thing. I like their argument. I think it's great. But it really cracks me up at the end of it because Harry walks in and then she just yells at him for no reason. It's just what'd I do? So then he goes upstairs and he has the nightmare again, and then he wakes up to see Neville, and then I like Neville, so excited, he was with Ginny at the dance, and he was so excited about it. Him and his shoes cracked me up. So that stuff's really, really good. Very teenager like. I like that. Then we get the conversation on the bridge between Ron and Hermione. And then Hermione's you haven't figured this out yet. You know what I mean? You better figure it out. And then Cedric walks up on the bridge, returns the favor to Harry. He's like, why don't you? It's nice day for a bath, not a bad time or the bathroom, not a bad place for a bath, he tells him. And then we get reintroduced. I was happy to see her a little bit, moaning Myrtle in the bathroom, and that scene's really, really funny. I like
it's been a minute.
I like that she mentions the polyjuice potion, and Harry's just kick the habit. I thought that was a really good line. Then we yeah, it's a fun moment. And then they're trying to figure out, because then they find out it's mermaids. How's he going to breathe underwater? And then we get the Neville thing, because obviously it was really well set up that he's into herbology. He's helping Harry put away the books. You know, Rudy calls out Ron and Hermione, obviously, because they're going to be two of the people that are underwater. So which, by the way, this is so brutal to do to students. I understand that they're under a spell, but to put them underwater for that long, that deep with the mermaids is like, what the hell?
I've also always thought so. I was like, so if one of them failed, you were just gonna let the person you took also die?
They pretty much said that.
Because that's on you, school.
Right.
That's on you, Triwizard Tournament
and they pretty
organizers.
They pretty much
that's
said
on
that.
you.
That sounds like a liability.
Yeah, that's a liability. Yeah. I'm like, you were the one that took them.
Yeah. I mean, sure, given, I feel like if worse came to worse, I think Dumbledore would have figured out a way to get him out. But because he
like, if Harry couldn't get Fleur's sister, like, Fleur's sister just would have drowned.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
that's how they make it seem.
They do. They basically allude to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, then we get to the second tournament. And then you know, so they yeah, I mean, this scene is really good as well. Again, like, every time we're in the Triwizard Tournament, it's the best stuff in the movie, because I think it's where Mike Newell's sensibilities really come into play, and I think that's why he was hired for this job, was for this in particular. The stuff surrounding it is good, and you know, it's you know, he did an okay job with it. It's just this stuff, you could tell why he was hired for the job. And the mermaids are creepy. The underwater environment is creepy as hell. It works really well. But anyway, Adam, Yule Ball, Triwizard Tournament, go ahead and give your thoughts, and then when you're done, Sammy, give your thoughts. I will be right back, just in case I'm not back. So go ahead, Adam.
He's gonna take a massive Hagrid-sized dump.
Hagrid-sized dump.
It's possible.
This is gonna rival Hagrid's. He'll be back in 45 minutes. Anyway.
45 minutes. Maybe even an hour and 45.
We'll see.
Yeah. Let's see. Where did we start?
Yule Ball.
Oh, the ball.
Like, putting their robes on, Hermione coming down. Their
I was gonna say before that.
Sisters.
Before that, one of like the purest moments is catching Neville in his dorm dancing in his shiny shoes and pajamas. That's like the most pure moment.
Oh yeah, he cares so much.
He really does.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
And then
it's too pure.
Let's see. Moaning Myrtle. What a creep, right? She's trying to sneak a peek under the water when Harry is in the bath. She's like being so creepy, trying to look under the bubbles.
Yeah. And it's
I always get a kick out of that.
Right. And it's like, she's like a ghost. Like, she's older. Like, she's way older. And I'm like, you're trying to look at this 14-year-old boy, or like, Moaning Myrtle. This is not sitting right.
That ain't a good look.
Like, oh.
Ain't a good look.
Yeah.
And then let's see. Yeah, and then the tournament. I like all the underwater stuff is really cool. All the weird creatures down there. Harry and his gills, like that is really bizarre looking.
Victor Crumb is like a shark.
Yeah. And I like when Harry rescues them, and then the girl's sister is thanking him, and then like thanking Ron, like, and you helped too. And he's like, well, a bit.
I did.
Oh, right. Yeah. You were unconscious. So, okay. Whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. I like all that stuff.
Yeah. No, me too. I mean, I've always loved the Yule Ball stuff. That's always been some of my favorite scenes of Harry Potter. Yeah, I just really love everything about it. I love the way it's shot. I love the way it's acted. I love the costumes. It's all just wonderful. And then I agree, all of the underwater stuff as well, for the same reasons. Like, it's shot wonderfully. The actors perform it wonderfully. The music in those scenes are great, and you feel the tension in that. You really feel like there's stakes here. Like, You feel like you're like, oh, the dragon was just level 1, and you're like, this is level 2 though. Like this is like stakes have for somehow gotten even bigger. So yeah, really love all of that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So then moving on, so then we get to like they're all kind of celebrating, walking through the woods. I really like that. Barty Crouch Jr. also approaches Harry. We can clearly see Mad Eye watching them as well. Right. And then he finds Barty Crouch Sr. dead in the woods when they're out there celebrating. Then he goes up to Dumbledore's office to presumably try to explain himself, to, be like, it almost reminds me of Chamber of Secrets. Like he's going to Dumbledore's office to explain himself. Hey, I didn't kill that guy. I know I was suspect in the past, but that's not exactly how it plays out. But that's just, it feels like it's heading in that way. And then we get the introduction to the Pensieve, which, is obviously very important to this franchise and comes into play in a huge way later on in the film. So I really like, again, planting the seeds. They've done very well with this throughout all the films, planting the seeds for the important things that are going to come later. Introduced to the Pensieve, which is one of my favorite things in Harry Potter. Really cool concept behind it. The fact that you can go back and look at memories is pretty insane. And then we get, he goes into the Pensieve, and then, he basically, he gets to see the whole trial with Barty Crouch Jr. And I like how he comes back up. This always makes me chuckle, and he's like, "Sir, Barty Crouch Jr., what happened to him?" And then Dumbledore's like, he was sent to Azkaban, you haven't seen him in years. And then he just stops, he's like, "Why do you ask?" Harry's like, Harry tells him, he's like, "I've been having the dreams," and he's one of the men in the dream. And then, then Harry's walking through the halls, and then the movie moves pretty quick from here, honestly. I mean, he's walking through the halls, and then Snape approaches him about, making the Polyjuice potion. How pissed off Snape is here. And we didn't get a lot of Snape in the movie in the first place, so it's really...
yeah, that's a shame.
It's nice to see him. It was really good to see him, at least for the moment. And, you and your friends are making Polyjuice potion, and trust me, I'm going to find out why. And then, so then we get into the third...
Right. I forgot about that. I was like, yeah, but that's right, because like there's like ingredients missing from his like potion cabinet.
Right. So then we get into the third task. And I'll go ahead and say it again. I mean, first of all, I think it's funny. They're still doing the running gag. Filch can't work the cannon. And I like when Harry's going through the maze. By the way, when Dumbledore like pulls him in, like in the maze, you'll lose yourselves, kind of thing. Like that is intense. And then like, I like when Harry walks in the maze, turns around, and Mad Eye's just giving him the, direction to go. And Harry's like, "Oh, that guy's helping me out," not really. So this stuff, again, I said it in the beginning, I'll say it again, of all the Harry Potter movies we've talked about so far, this is the best thing ever. Like, it really is. Like, this plays so well. The maze is very creepy. It's very horror-centric, very dark, obviously. A lot of intense things happen. I mean, Cedric getting bewitched. Love this. Not Cedric, I'm sorry, Victor getting bewitched. And then, Fleur kind of disappearing into the maze, and this stuff is just insane. And then you get Harry when he's, excuse me, when Harry finally, gets around to the point where, it's like Cedric and Victor are having this like duel, it's really, really amazing. And then like Harry's like, he pulls him back. He's like, he's bewitched Cedric, you know what I mean? And then Cedric like gets, pulled up by the maze, he almost gets taken, then Harry saves him. I love this moment. There's this amazing shot in this, the way it plays with the score. By the way, who did the score for this one? Because we got to shout him out too. I forgot about that.
I don't know off the top of my head. I can look it up.
Thank you. And also, the other thing I wanted to point out, speaking of all this dark stuff, because we didn't talk about this either, this is the first Potter film that was PG-13, by the way. Just a fun fact for everybody. Really? But yeah. Which makes sense, because when you see this stuff, it's like, yeah, this clearly needed to be at least a PG-13. It wouldn't have worked any other way. But the amazing shot, it's a close-up where Harry is like looking at the... Who is it? Patrick Doyle.
I got it. Yeah. Patrick Doyle.
Yeah,
sorry.
Did a great job with the score. Phenomenal job with the score. But the amazing close-up of Harry when he's looking at he's looking at the cup, and he looks back at Cedric, and then he looks at the cup again. It's so beautifully done. Finally, he saves Cedric. Love that. And then they run over to the cup, and they're like, together, we'll do it together. Didn't work out that way.
The worst mistake they ever could have made.
Really is. Then they end up in the graveyard. Everything happens really fast. I mean, Pettigrew walks out. Obviously we know who he is. He kills Cedric. And I like that they're bringing the killing curse back around. Yeah, this graveyard stuff, as Adam was saying earlier, is just incredible. Yeah. It's incredible. And obviously, Dumbledore or Voldemort, I want to go off of one of Adam's points that he was making earlier too. One of the most underrated villains of pop culture, Voldemort. I'm telling you right now, because if you watch this scene, he is, like Adam was saying, there's something about him that's just like, I don't know. He almost like Palpatine. He's very manipulative. You know what I mean? Like in that way. So he's just such an underrated villain in that sense. And Ralph Fiennes does a phenomenal job in the scene. He is great as Voldemort. I could not think of better casting for him. I love Daniel Radcliffe's acting here too. When it comes down to him having to be in pain. They're taking his blood and all that. And then we get in this moment what is, to me, just the beginning of Harry Potter. You know what I mean? This sets up everything that's going to be coming, moving forward. When they have the duel together, him and Voldemort, his parents show up. I love it. Love everything about this. It's phenomenal. It's the best thing we've seen in all the movies that we've talked about so far. I 100% stand by that. Dumbledore's they get back to, hold on, we'll talk about this too. They get back to where they started before the tournament, and the crowd is there, and I love the way that the scene is toned. I love the tone of the scene where the crowd is like cheering, and then it like dies down, and Daniel Radcliffe just does such a great job here doing with the emotional stuff. He's very upset, and he really did give 100% as an actor in this moment. And then when they get back to the they go into I think it's Moody's office, and then Dumbledore comes in, and then they find out he's Barty Crouch Jr. has been taking Polyjuice Potion. I love the line of, "I'll show you mine if you show me yours, you're on." I love that. That's great. And then we get to the obviously Barty gets arrested. We find out Moody's been like I feel so bad for him. There's something funny about this, that he's all the way down there. Anyway, so we get that, and then we go into we get this really good conversation between actually first it's Dumbledore's monologue, which is just incredibly powerful. The part where he's like, we got to remember our hearts beat as one. You know what I mean? This is just relevant to real life. You know what I mean? And I think that it's just a really good message in the film. And then, Dumbledore, we get the conversation in the dorm where Dumbledore and he's talking to Harry, and he tells, he's like, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? He actually apologizes to Harry, and, I'm sorry for everything that you had to go through this year. It was a tough year, and, it seems like Dumbledore kind of puts some of the blame on himself for sure. You know what I mean? Not being able to see through the trickery, I guess, that was going on here. And that's one of the things that differs this school year, I think, from the others, is the fact that it wasn't like Harry went looking for the trouble this time. Like the trouble found Harry this time, so it was different than, the rest of the school years. So, I mean, yeah, so, the ending here is really great. All the students go and say goodbye. This is one of the things I'll say is way above Azkaban is the ending. Like, this ending, it was phenomenal. I love the everything's going to change now, isn't it? It's a great line because it's just the truth. Yes. I mean, this is the moment where, again, it's like, it lets you know this is the beginning of everything. That's, the conclusion. It's the beginning of the conclusion of this whole thing. And, Hermione saying that was great. And then I just love the camaraderie between the characters at the end here, and then them looking out of the balcony, and then, we get the shot over the lake, and it's beautiful. And, just a really great ending shot, a great way to end the film. Anyway, Adam, what do you got on the third act? I mean, and then the ending. I mean, I know that you think very highly of it, so.
Yes, I really like this part of the movie. First of all, going back to the Dumbledore's office, I really like the scene and being able to, get introduced to seeing Dumbledore's memories and stuff like that. I always thought that was really cool, and
Great
him
concept.
like pulling stuff out of his head. I think it's a really cool concept. Also, what kind of crazy person keeps candy in their office that bites you?
Oh, right.
That crazy son of a gun.
It's crazy.
He loves
You are
candy.
a
He has a thing for
sociopath.
sweets.
He does.
The man's got a thing for sweets.
For sure.
Well, they bite back.
Yeah. They got a thing for him.
If not
too.
initially biting your fingers, they go to your hips later.
Right.
Yeah, I like that office scene. And then yeah, so the final maze thing, once again, Filch firing off the cannon. On the count of 3. 1 poof.
It's great.
Oh,
it's great.
such a legend.
Yeah.
I want to see Filch
Legend.
compete in the Triwizard tournament.
He would die. I don't know if he'd make it. He'd die.
Or he would set records.
You're not wrong.
He's thinking outside
You're
the
not
box.
wrong.
The maze scene is ridiculous. It's so cool. It's so gloomy, so mysterious. I like everything about it. The whole thing with, the trophy being the port key and going to the graveyard, and it's like incredibly unfortunate that they both had to go, and somebody had to die. But on the other hand, like, Harry I guess he didn't have to turn back and save him. I guess that's a question, is would he have died in the maze anyway? Like, what happens when you get eaten up by all those?
Well, I mean, Victor and Fleur lived.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
So he probably wouldn't
do you
have.
think, though, I think for Floor, at least, Harry, signaled.
He launched the...
That's right. He did launch the
the
signals.
things.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't remember if anyone did that for Victor.
I don't know that they did, no.
Yeah.
But he lived.
Because they it almost insinuated, because he had said, for a second, I thought that you weren't going to turn back for me. And then Harry said, for a second, I thought I did too. And then they were like, hell of a tournament. Like,
yeah.
Because he said before
Great
they
stuff.
went in, like, this tournament changes people.
Yeah.
So it's like, in that moment, you think you're going to win, and all of a sudden, it's like you change as a person. So I guess that's the question is, well, would he have died anyway?
Right.
But I don't know. He could have launched a flare, and he could have lost, and he could have got out alive. But
yeah, probably.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. But yeah, the whole thing with Voldemort coming back, like, that stuff is wild. They drop his bony little body in that pot. Like, thank goodness that worked, right? Because otherwise they would have been eating some Voldemort stew.
They just eat it. They just eat
just eat. Yeah, they just eat the stew. Like, well,
melted flesh.
that didn't work.
Thank God it did. Yeah,
Peter Pettigrew's just sitting there eating the soup.
Yeah. Oh, one thing we forgot to mention was the reveal of Lucius Malfoy being a Death Eater in this moment.
Oh, yeah.
And Crabbe and Goyle are both mentioned as well, so obviously they're
their
part of it too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, go ahead, Adam.
Something I get a kick out of is when he's like doing the sacrifice. He gets the blood from Harry and then cuts off his whole freaking hand. He's like, the flesh of a servant. And I'm like, you couldn't have cut off a fingertip? Like,
True.
You really had to do the whole hand.
It must have been.
Like, because I'm just saying, like, Voldemort gave him the hand back, luckily, but I'm just saying the guy that you're serving isn't exactly the nicest guy. I wouldn't assume that he's going to give your hand back.
Right.
Must have been that.
Whatever.
Not sure.
Whatever.
I think the Death Eaters are so badass, like with their masks and the black hoods, which is oddly resembles something else with the opposite colored hood. But anyway,
but yep.
The moment between Harry and Voldemort with the freaking their wands meeting, and it's like
Yeah.
I live for that moment. That is one of my favorite Harry Potter moments. And then they start coming out, and he sees his parents, and like it's so
It's
cool.
amazing. Yeah.
So cool. And the kid's only 14. Like, for him to even be able to hold his own whatsoever, even for that period of time, is amazing. So that has to have Voldemort at least a little upset. Like,
A little shook.
not only did you fail to kill a baby, but now you're failing to kill him again. He's only 14 years old. All your servants are watching.
Yeah, while all your friends are watching. Yeah.
They're probably like, Voldemort, he got beat by a 14-year-old.
Like, loser.
Loser.
Probably.
Yeah, I like when they go back. Like you said, Daniel Radcliffe, great job of his acting there. It felt very sincere. It felt very gut-wrenching, very sad. And his dad coming in, that's my boy. Like, he's so upset.
Yeah, that was so sad.
Yeah, this movie is like so dark for that
really
reason.
Is.
Like, that this final act, like, it really sets the tone. Like, these movies just continue to get dark. It's just the theme from now on, and I like it. I like it. It's heavy.
Like I said, first PG-13 Potter, and you really do see why. Like, it's a warranted, step up to the PG-13, which I know it was one of the things they talked about in the 8-hour documentary. They were like, "There's no way we're getting Mike Newell to do this, and it's going to stay PG." They were nervous about how that would do at the time. They didn't think that the kids would go and see it. But anyway, Adam, I digress.
Yeah, and then I guess last thing to say is, when Dumbledore addresses the students at the end, a lot of respect for Dumbledore. I think that's really cool, saying like, the ministry doesn't want me to tell you this, but he has more respect for his students than that. And he knows that they were friends with him, and that they deserve to know.
Right.
And it's a pretty big deal. Voldemort is back, like, especially since Harry is in the school and he's a target. Like, everybody deserves to know, because just Harry being there puts everybody at risk.
Yeah.
So I think it would be irresponsible to not warn people.
For sure.
But anyway, end of the movie is gorgeous. You see the other schools sailing away, flying away, and the sun coming down, and some beautiful shots. But all around, third act, so good.
Yeah. Sammy, what do you got on the third final act, the ending?
Yeah, I mean, I completely echo everything that's been said already. This is some of the best parts of the movie. I do love the maze, even though I will say it is done a bit better in the book. There's just a bit more, like, there's just more things added to it. Like, there's a whole serpent that you have to answer a riddle. It's the whole thing. It's great. But I do really love this moment. I love that the Cedric and Harry moments, and it just hurts watching it, knowing what's gonna happen, watching them both run for that port key, and then they kill Cedric like right away. Like, he doesn't even get a second to like really understand where he is before he's just gone. And I've always loved when Howland Cedric shows up when his parents do as well, and he's like, "Take my body back to my father," and I love that moment. And and everything that Wright Fiennes is doing as Voldemort is just like, he just understands that character, I think, so perfectly. Like, he just gets it. He understands what he is, what he means, and how dark and menacing he really is, and how bad news that character really is. And it rubs off. You can totally see it in his performance. I love the whole like, "I can touch you now" thing, and
his nails.
His nails, right? It's just his whole.
That character would have been way different if somebody else played it. I was just reading an article where he was talking about how he had a lot to do with how that character turned out, because they were wanting to do a lot of stuff that he didn't like. Like, he had mentioned that they wanted to put these really big nails, and he couldn't close a fist because his nails were so big. They wanted his eyes to glow red. They had all these weird ideas. And his mannerisms and his outfit and a whole bunch of stuff came from him. So
because he does need to be on a certain level where he's not a human. He's a little feces type
Yeah.
thing of bones that's a mixture of different people's blood, and it's like
and he's kind of snaky.
and he's one, and
bit.
he's a little snaky. He's 1/7 of his actual soul. Like
Right.
he's not meant to be like a person. Like he's definitely meant to be like
Right.
an
That
other
nose.
like creature thing, and the nose or the lack thereof of the nose.
I want to shout one thing out here
know.
real quick in this moment that I forgot to mention. I meant to, but the part where he's like, come out, Harry Potter. I want to look at you when I kill you. I want to see the look in your. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And
I
then
want to
you
look
get
into your eyes when I kill you.
Then you get the props to Daniel Radcliffe. You get the Patrick Doyle, the dun 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 dun. And Harry walks out, and it's have it your way. Then amazing. Mm-hmm. That is amazing, by the way. But anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Phenomenal.
Wanted to throw that out there.
Oh no, it is absolutely phenomenal. And I also the whole scene of when Harry comes back with Cedric's body and the music is still playing and people are cheering, and it just takes everybody that 10 seconds to realize what's going on. It's just it's one of like the best moments in the Harry Potter series. It's like top 15, I'd say, like best scenes, I'd say, made scenes. It's just absolutely phenomenal.
I don't disagree.
And the scream that his father gives, and just the music, the Daniel Radcliffe's performance, the everything is just absolutely phenomenal.
100%. Yeah. So yeah, guys, that'll do it for Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I want to thank everybody for joining today. Sammy, thank you for being here. Where can the people find you?
Yeah, so you guys can find me on Instagram. I'm at Sammy Ramirez 14, and then also on Twitter as well as Stereo at Sammy Ramirez.
All right, and thanks for being here very much. And Adam, where can people find you before we go?
At the Red Eclectic on everywhere: TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, you name it.
Right on. Thanks for being here, man. Much appreciated, as always.
Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. And you can find me on Twitter at Dom_Martino_ and on Instagram Dom_Martino_official. Try not to look at you guys because I know it's going to make me laugh. But guys, thank you so much for joining. This has been a wonderful conversation. What do you guys think of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire? What's your ranking of the 4 that we have done so far? Let us know in the comment section below. Very much would like to hear that. So thank you guys again for joining. Please hit the like button below, subscribe to the channel, leave some feedback in the comments section below, and share this with your friends, and make sure you hit that bell for notifications as well if you want to see some more content in the future. Much appreciated. So everybody have a good night. Thanks for joining. Later.